Hey, Fred here, coming to you live from my apartment building in New York City, which is now, of course, my radio studio for daily broadcasts of PT. And it looks like we're up live now on Facebook and on the PT homepage. And wherever you're watching from, drop some comments in. I can see the comments coming in on Facebook, and I think that's the way we'll be able to interact with you. And I use the word we because I've had such fun doing a few Facebook Lives on some recent Fridays that we wanted to expand the format a little bit. And if you're a regular listener of PT, this next gentleman needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's time for another piano puzzler. Bruce Adolph is here with me in New York City. Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Fred.
Hi. Although with is an interesting word in this context because you're elsewhere in New York City. You're in your apartment building in New York City.
Yeah, well, I'm here. I thought you were elsewhere. But yes, it is very weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. These times and many things are very weird right now. And yet we have the capability to try out something like this. So Bruce, you're in addition to all the other things you do in your musical life, you write the weekly musical game that we play on Wednesdays and on the weekend on PT, the Piano Puzzler. For folks who might not know, what is a piano puzzler?
Well, the piano puzzler is a mixture, kind of a mélange or a combination, you could put it, of two things and sometimes more. One thing is a famous tune. It could be a melody from a famous classical piece or a popular song or a children's tune or a Broadway show. And it's mixed with either the style of a famous classical composer or an actual piece by that classical composer. So I might do Brahms or Beethoven or Mozart or Debussy or Ravel or Janacek or Stravinsky or Copland or Chopin or Rachmaninoff or Debussy. I think I'm going to start to repeat myself. And it could be a Beatles tune or any kind of thing. And I put them together very carefully. And I make sure there are a lot of fun details. So the more you know about music, and especially if you've played the piano, the more fun and crazy it is. And also it bears multiple listenings because I put a lot of detail into it. That's basically what it is. We've been doing them for 18 years, right?
18 years now. It's been a lot of fun watching these evolve over the years because at the beginning, they were a little simpler. It was a tune with some stylistic elements from a composer. But now, Bruce, you so often will take not just the style of Brahms, but you'll grab a particular intermezzo by Brahms and the phrasing and the harmony and the harmonic rhythm of the piece and mix that with a particular tune. So they've gotten more subtle and more funny and more interesting. And as you've gone, and you're now into like number 500 or something.
I think that's true. I was looking at my computer to see how many I have, and I have so many files, and each file has about 100 in them. And I think there may be more than 500 now because I keep doing them, keep adding to them, and I just don't keep track. If I didn't have a computer, I'd really be in trouble trying to find these things. And I've been doing it. Yeah.
That was a couple of years ago when you've published 2 books of printed piano puzzlers, and you asked me to write introductions for those. And I did a little math on these and figured out that, each one is only a minute or 2 minutes long. But if you were to play them back to back to back from beginning to end, all the piano puzzlers would be longer than the entire cycle of 4 operas, the Ring Cycle by Wagner, which is like 14 or 15 hours. Wagner, not part of the Ring Cycle, but Wagner.
Right. That's the most recognizable Wagner, of course. Right. Yeah, I know. It's a lot of music.
Tristan and Isolde, yeah.
Yeah, right.
And we've got a little delay, so we talk over each other a little bit. But yeah. So the piano puzzlers all together are now longer than the Ring Cycle by Wagner. And okay, it's one thing to talk about a piano puzzler, but maybe you should just show us one, and I'll start looking at comments that are already streaming in on our Facebook page, and so we'll bring other people into the conversation after you play one.
Okay, I'm going to play one of my favorites. I mean, there are many that I like, but there are a few that I just feel very close to them because of particular scenarios behind them, or because they seem to really work in terms of the tune and the composer in a way that brings it almost to a compositional level. So here's one.
Well, we have guesses coming in on Facebook comments already. Kathy Weiss
Really?
Johnson says Eleanor Rigby question mark.
Yes, Eleanor Rigby! Exclamation point.
And Rolf, whose last name I will not try to pronounce because it has some diacriticals, some Scandinavian diacriticals in the last name, Rolf, also said Eleanor Rigby. And
One of them is right.
that is true. That is literally true. And
And so is
we
the
have
other
a
one.
comment, and we have a comment from S.C. Bray who says Brahms Opus 119 number 1.
Correct.
So those are both parts of the piano puzzler, the puzzler that you just played. Eleanor Rigby was the tune, not just in the style of Johannes Brahms, but incorporating some elements of a particular composition by Brahms. And Bruce, could you unpack that a little bit?
Yes. Well, that was great. I'm very impressed with the person who, actually all of you, but getting Opus 119, the intermezzo. Not only did you recognize it, but you remember 119, which is not the catchiest title of a piece of music. Um, so this is in B minor. I mean, Eleanor Rigby could be in any minor key. It's a song, but the Opus 119 of Brahms is in B minor, and it has many aspects to it that I have quoted exactly. So, for example, this falling series of thirds and scales and chords dropping like leaves falling from a tree, those are taken directly from the Brahms. And also, among other things, the very end, this last extremely amazing harmonic idea, and then resolving it. Now, what's interesting about that idea, which is Brahms, I mean, I didn't write that, and Paul McCartney and John Lennon didn't write that. That's Brahms. And what that does is you get every note of the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, descending in thirds, landing on the key of B minor. So it's quite dissonant and therefore beautiful, because dissonance is what makes music have action and meaning. It's like the verbs of music and the adjectives. And then it resolves So it's full of quotes from Brahms from that particular piece, and the tune is there the entire time.
Eleanor Rigby, in the style of Brahms, quoting and interpolating the Intermezzo Opus 119, number 1. We've got so many comments now coming in from all over the place. Let's see. I mentioned
That's
Kathy
fun.
Reese Johnson, who had a correct guess. Let's see. Moira says, "Hey, Fred and Bruce from Louisville, North Carolina." Joanna Marie is in Boca Raton and saying hi to Bruce. And she says, "Bruce, hope to see you in Boca Raton next season." Tony says
Oh
hello
yes,
from
there's.
Minneapolis.
Mhm.
Connie says hi from Richmond, Virginia. She listens to Virginia Public Media. Sue listens to us on KVNO in Omaha. Danny from Boise, Idaho, listens to the Puzzlers on the podcast. Um, oh my goodness, there's so many comments coming in. This is fantastic. Oh, here's one that says, "Hi, Bruce," from Wang Ji, who just happens to be
Oh,
my
I see.
wife, a
Aha.
fellow composer, tuning in from elsewhere in my same building in New York
Whoa.
City. Lots of questions here, too. What are you reading from? You're reading the music, but what are you reading
Ah,
from?
well, I have all the puzzlers in my computer, so I'm reading from a large computer screen that is separate from the computer itself. My computer is over here, and then I have a big screen right here, which I can put the music on. I could make it enormous, but it's just fairly normal size. And I'm playing on a digital piano. I mean, my wife and I have two very nice Steinways in another room. Both of them are out of tune right now. Uh, but my little digital keyboard does not go out of tune, so it's actually easier to use it for something at this point. So here we go. It's a little bit
And
harder to
this
be expressive in the same way on a digital keyboard, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, and this is something that happens to, I mean, not just pianos over time, of course they go out of tune, but pianos in New York City. There's a particular thing that happens twice a year, is that as we move from winter to summer, things get much more humid, and then the opposite happens in the fall. So there's a run on calls to piano tuners and piano technicians every spring and every fall in New
Right.
York City.
And we always say the New York expression, it's not the heat, it's the humidity.
It's the humidity. Genevieve says greetings from NET Radio in Nebraska.
Ah, Genevieve
Uh,
Randall. Hi there.
yes. Dana Beatty from hello from Longview, Texas. We love you here. Astorama from New Jersey. Max says, "I'm always amazed that you can recall so many pieces, fit the pieces of the puzzler together. Thank you." Suzanne says, "Bruce, how do you come up with these ideas?"
That is a very difficult thing to answer because there's no one way. Sometimes something just pops into my head. But you can get ideas by being the kind of person who is ready for ideas. So it's kind of a lifestyle. So if you're looking around and listening to things and wanting to get ideas, they'll occur to you. They don't come knocking at your door. Oh, by the way, does this work? I don't know. Here, yeah. um, so yeah. But for example, let's say I have to write a puzzler and I didn't have an idea. What I normally would do was just randomly pick either a popular song that I like or a composer and maybe a particular piece. And I'll start saying, I'm going to use this somehow. So it might be a Beatles tune, and I know I want to use it. So I start flipping through various, maybe Bach or Brahms or Mozart or Chopin books that I have lying around the house. And sometimes all I'm looking for is the smallest connection at all. And that's all you need to get started. So it's the idea of a connection which then sparks a larger connection, which then when you start to work, you start to see more connections. So basically, ideas come from searching for ideas, I think, and being open to them and sort of knowing that you need one and then looking everywhere for one. If I just sat around on the couch or lay down on the couch and said I need an idea, probably nothing would happen. But it might.
Sometimes I've heard you talk about this, Bruce, and you say that you'll hear like the first two or three notes of a melody of a pop song, and it'll just almost automatically connect. Like your brain makes a connection with, oh, Chopin did almost the same thing with this piece, and let's see what happens.
Fred, I can't, but you and I are on the same wavelength somehow or other, because I picked one tune in case this came up, this idea of a connection, and it is Chopin. So I hope that doesn't bother anyone. But I mean, it's just incredible. I'll just use this as an example of what we're talking about. This tune, I mean, what is that? It could be many different things. But it's the beginning of a piece by Chopin, but it's also the same three notes as a popular song. So I ended up doing this by
Whoa,
taking
whoa,
a
whoa.
Chopin mazurka. This is Chopin, and the Chopin actually starts like this, but then I start to go into the tune. And then it comes back. So I could finish this, but basically, it's just what you were saying. There was a popular tune. Maybe I was watching that movie, A Music Man, with my daughter when she was little, because this isn't that recent a puzzler. 2012. Okay, it's kind of recent. I probably wasn't watching it with her at that, but I might have just heard. And then when next time I look at Chopin mazurkas, I thought, that's enough. You know,
Just those three rising notes. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, what is this?
Bum, bum, ba, bum, 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 ba, bum, ba, bum.
It could be, or it could be. So it's fun. The connections are fun. I mean, we only have 12 notes in the Western scale, and then they repeat. I remember the first time when you're a kid and you realized that the piano is the same 12 notes over and over and over. It really changes your perspective. It's just a bizarre perspective. And those 12 notes can be combined in many ways. And if you add not only to that mathematics, you add rhythm, which is infinite, um, and then harmony, you have several levels of infinity. And yet tunes they're definitely all going to be connected to each other at some level.
Yeah.
You know what
All right.
really
Well,
struck me recently?
before we get to what struck you recently,
Yeah.
we've got a lot of. You never named the tune. We did say that was a Chopin mazurka, but we've got a
Ah,
lot of folks online. And let me just scroll through here. Oh yeah, well
should I
Sue
play more of
already
it?
went on to your next one saying Rudolph the Toreador of Carmen. So that was our little demonstration. Let me scroll back.
Very
I'm
good.
looking at comments on my phone on the Facebook page here. Scrolling up. Oh, Danny Huang says Mazurka in A minor, Opus 17, number 4. So
Correct.
we've got some specificity there, and a bunch of folks recognizing the name of the tune from the Music Man. Lots and lots of folks recognizing the
Should I
name of the
play the whole
tune from
puzzler?
Music Man. Just a couple more comments. Let's see. Lots of folks saying hello and watching. Hector del Curto is tuned in, one of the great bandoneon players of our time, great tango musician who has been featured on PT. David Srednick, my
Excellent.
old colleague from the NPR days in Washington, D.C. David is watching. David did some really sweet stuff for when my wife, composer Wang Ji, and I did a live streaming thing. David, thank you so much for your attention to detail and meaning in that earlier live stream. Becky Williams says hello from West Virginia. Let's see. Oh yeah, Sue says bells on the hill. Never heard them ringing. Music Man. Okay. Now, Bruce, you just a minute ago said something really struck you, and I wanted to circle back to that.
Yes. But I'm wondering, should I play the puzzler that I only played a
Oh,
fraction of just now?
yes, please.
I
Yes.
mean, now that all those people know what it is, which was correct. Till There Was You from The Music Man and Opus 17, number 4 of Chopin, Mazurka. Yeah, I'll play the whole thing. There we go.
That has such a serious, solemn tone to it, which it inherited from Chopin's Mazurka.
Yes.
But I kept, as you were playing that, Bruce, I mean, I've heard you play this one before. We've broadcast this before, but I still laugh out loud as you're playing it because it's these two different frames of reference intersecting in unexpected ways. And that's one
Yeah,
of the definitions of comedy is when somebody
exactly.
makes different frames of reference cross like that.
Yeah, and
Here's a
there's something about the fact that these two things don't belong together and have come out of completely separate contexts that makes them funny, but the music, as you mentioned, sounds kind of serious and a little sad very often. And I have several neuroscientist friends who've been doing research into this topic using the piano puzzlers. The question being, uh, if you hear something as sad and beautiful, then you realize what it is and think it's funny. Can you ever not hear it the same way again? In other words, do you always now hear it as funny, or can you go back to that mysterious feeling? And to me, it's kind of like, when you're a kid and you don't know the instruments in an orchestra, and you hear an orchestra and you don't know what a brass instrument is or an oboe, and you hear all these sounds, and it's so magical and mysterious. And then if you're a musician, and if you're a professional musician, and even more if you're a composer or a conductor, orchestral player, there's no mystery at all to the instruments that are playing and the sounds that they make, unless you really work hard to bring that back to yourself, which I think is an important thing to do. It reminds me of once my teacher when I was at Juilliard was Vincent Persichetti, and he once said to me, "I just heard Beethoven's Fifth for the first time again." And there's a lesson
yes.
right there. You want to be able to do that. It's not easy, but you can sort of reboot.
Yeah. Well, of course, my frame of reference often goes back to my home. And again, my wife, Wang Ji, had this exact same experience just a couple of weeks ago. I mean, she's in the middle of writing orchestral music and she listened to Beethoven's Fifth Symphony and was just thrilled about hearing things for the first time in this piece that she's been listening to her whole life.
You know, I know the feeling exactly. And as Inspector Pulse, who is my alter ego, who on the Chamber for Kids, he was once trying to figure out something about Beethoven's Fifth, and he was playing, but then he couldn't remember the last note. So he was looking for it, and he ended up with this. And he was really confused about the, wait a minute, 1, 2, 3. No, what? It's there. It's one of them's Beethoven, one of them's Old MacDonald. This is ridiculous.
And the notes are right next to
Talk
each
about,
other on the piano.
that's right. That's right.
All right, here's another comment from Genevieve Randall, who says, thanks to my college friend Dan, whenever I hear the first phrase of the second theme in the first movement of Beethoven's Waldstein Sonata. Okay, so Bruce, do you know what that theme is she's referring to?
I do, but I'm going to grab it right here.
Okay. Whenever I hear the first phrase of the second theme in the first movement of Beethoven's Waldstein Sonata, the second phrase I hear is from the Tonight Show theme back in the Johnny Carson days. So let's see if we can find that connection. Genevieve hears that connection. Let's see if we can. I mean, here we are live. Let's see if we can make that happen.
I don't know. That is pretty weird. So are you talking about this?
Oh yeah, I'm there. I hear it already.
That's hilarious. It's kind of sneaking around in the background.
Okay. I'm going to jump in here because so Bruce, play that Beethoven theme again, just the way Beethoven wrote it. That's enough right there.
Yeah, all right.
And the old Johnny Carson theme, it doesn't start on the downbeat, but it's that same descending pattern. 1, 2. Yeah. Doc Severinsen playing the trumpet, like leading the band.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Genevieve says, yes.
Oh, sorry.
Rocco is tuned in. Rocco is the great chamber orchestra down in Texas, down in Houston, Texas, that does so much innovative programming, and we play so much of their work, so many of their concert highlights on PT. So Rocco is tuned in and says, love these musical connections. Harold Anderson says, one of my favorites is where you did "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning" to the first movement of the Moonlight Sonata. Do you remember that, Bruce?
I could probably find it. All
right, I'm going to scroll through some more comments while you're looking for that. Mindy says hello from WVIK Quad Cities. Okay. Back over to you, Bruce.
Okay, I got it here. Let's see. I haven't looked at this in a long time. I'm just making it big enough for me to see it. This is from 2009.
A piano puzzler from 11 years ago.
Yeah. I had
again.
completely forgotten that.
Well, Harold Anderson, who's with us on Facebook Live, remembered it well. Harold, all you had to do is ask, and there you go. And Bruce, as you were playing, it was like I could consciously flip a switch in my brain. Sometimes, and
I know.
sometimes it was, and sometimes not. Like sometimes I could say, "Oh, I'm hearing the Beethoven now," and then I could hear the tune woven in there slower than I'm used to hearing it with different harmonies. But I could
Right,
focus on the
exactly.
tune, and then it was like I could defocus my eyes, almost like I could defocus my ears and
Yes.
hear it as a new composition. And so, like, all three of these listening tracks were kind of happening all at the same time, and I could consciously switch between them, or I could just let my mind choose. It was kind of amazing to watch myself listening to that.
Yeah, you know, I have to say, I had a little more of that experience than I usually do because I did not remember this puzzler. So I was kind of sight reading it, even though I wrote it 9 years ago. And at first, I really was thinking, where is the tune? And then I thought, I hear it. What I'm playing it too, but at first it didn't hit me because it was so slow. And then at one point it gets into the more normal relationship to the tempo and you hear the tune on the beat. And then it went away again. So I have to say that was an unusual experience for me to be sight reading an old puzzler and having the same experience that you had, I think, Fred.
So, like you were hearing Beethoven's Fifth again for the first time, you were hearing your piano puzzler that you had written again for the first time.
Yes, I don't think it's as profound as hearing Beethoven's Fifth for the first time, but it's weird. It's weird to be playing it, I have to say. You know, speaking of
Yeah.
Beethoven's Fifth for the first time, as I said, the person who said that was Vincent Persichetti, who I studied with him when I was 17 years old. And I suddenly remembered that there is a piano puzzler that I dedicated to him, and I never mentioned that. And there's a story behind it. And I can pull that up quickly. Um,
While you're
the
pulling that up,
story
I'll just
is,
read a few more comments coming in.
yeah, please.
Um, Melanie Dodson is a radio host, pianist, and musical director in Knoxville. Says hello from WUOT in Knoxville. I love the piano puzzlers. Kathy Reese Johnson, longtime friend of PT, says this weekend we were supposed to be enjoying the Chamber Music Festival at Shaker Village with the Chamber Music Society,
Yes,
but
yes, I
yeah, of
know.
course not happening this weekend. Alice says hi from Statesboro, Georgia. Oh, a fellow Fred Orlov says, you might not remember this, but because my name is Fred, Bruce played the Hello Fred again backwards when you welcomed me. Oh, Fred must have called in. And he says
I'll do
he
it
can
again.
speak backwards fluently. And I asked him to
Oh,
say performance today backwards, which he did along with our names.
wow.
Stephanie Brown says she has goosebumps listening to that last piano puzzler.
Wait, is that Stephanie the pianist?
I'm not sure. Uh,
Okay.
I'm not sure. Uh, John Goman, who I think this is my colleague on the PT staff, says he always likes Fred's subtle laugh at the end of the music. uh, oh, Lisa said, okay, this is a little bit of a change of subject, but Lisa says, does Bruce still have his parrot?
Yes, yes, I do. He at the moment is in another room with my daughter. My daughter is 21, graduating from Princeton this week, actually. And the bird is obsessed with her. And if I tried to get him out of that room right now, it wouldn't go well. He likes to watch her all day long and they talk to each other. So it's great. Otherwise,
And
he'd
this
be
is
in here trying to eat
Polly. Polly,
polyrhythm.
short for polyrhythm. And Polly and
His,
you and Polly have been together how long?
I've had the bird since I was 10 years old.
So
This is
about
one of
8
his
years now.
feathers. Right. 18, that's 18 years for the piano puzzlers. Yeah, I've had this bird. He's turning, the bird is turning 55 next week.
Wow.
It's very intense for a
Wow.
bird. Yeah.
uh, Okay, you had a
So,
puzzler that you dedicated to
yes,
Vincent Persichetti, your teacher at the
right,
Juilliard School, and there's a story that
right.
goes
And of
with it.
course, yeah, I mean, he doesn't know about this. He died, I believe, in the 1980s. But my audition for Juilliard, composers audition for Juilliard primarily just by sending in whatever you've been writing. But then they do an interview, and the interviews can be anything that the faculty wants it to be, from very probing and difficult to charming and funny. I mean, whatever mood they're in. And because of my age and I mean, the year that I went there, the faculty that sat there for my audition was Milton Babbitt, Vincent Persichetti, Roger Sessions, and Elliott Carter. And I got to know them all quite well. And Bersachetti, whenever he was in a room, he tended to take over no matter who was there. And he was a fantastic pianist. And they asked me all kinds of questions about harmony and composition and history, just all sorts of things. And then at one point, Persichetti went to the piano and he played something and said, "What composer do you think that is?" Now, at the time, I was 16 years old. So I didn't know the piece, but I was quite sure it was Debussy. So I said Debussy. And there was silence in the room because the composers had these funny looks on their faces and they were in cahoots. And he said to me, "Well, it was in the style of Debussy, but it was a song called Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. Have you ever heard of it?" I said, "No."
Oh.
I said, "No, I had never heard of the song." So sometimes I think that he really planted, that was a dramatic moment. I was auditioning for Juilliard. And I knew that this was not really part of the audition, it was just fun. He also asked me to sing the second bassoon part to any symphony, because I had written down that I was a bassoonist. And I did, because I had been playing second bassoon not that long ago in a Beethoven symphony. But anyway, so I decided to take Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and write it in the style of Debussy in honor of Vincent Persichetti. And I know I played this on the air at one point, but I've never said why I wrote it and the memory attached to it. And it's only in a show like this where we have so much more time and leisure to chat about tangentials and let ourselves be horizontal instead of vertical, so to speak, uh, intellectually speaking, that I could play this little thing. Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, which is a great tune. And of course, by the way, the tune is by Jerome Kern. And in retrospect, I think what probably happened is that Milton Babbitt probably leaned over to Persichetti and said, "Play him a Jerome Kern tune in the style of somebody. See if he gets it." Because Milton, whom I also studied with for several years, Milton loved Jerome Kern. He was obsessed with Jerome Kern tunes and could actually play basically all of them at the keyboard. Not something people think of when they think of Milton Babbitt, but he loved Kern. So I could also say this is dedicated to Milton Babbitt because he was one of the most complex, cerebral, intellectually challenging composers who ever lived, including those in the Middle Ages. And yet he was obsessed with Jerome Kern and Persichetti, who was able to do piano posers at the drop of the hat. And I maybe got some of the ideas from him. So this is for both of them. I really was thinking of Vincent and Milton. Yeah.
Again, I'm noticing my attention shifting kind of fluidly back and forth between appreciating Jerome Kern's tune, Smoke It's in Your Eyes. I can't remember who wrote the lyric, but the lyrics have this sentimental tug too.
Lyrics
And the
are
beauty of
the lyrics are by Otto Harbach.
Otto Harbach wrote those words. And then my appreciation of Claude Debussy as a creator of music and as a great breaker of rules in his time. I mean, some of the scales that you used from Debussy, like a descending whole tone harmonies, his teachers told him things like that were wrong. So I'm
Well,
appreciating Debussy. I'm loving the
yeah.
music, and then I'm also appreciating the way you wove them together. And now I have this extra layer. I'm thinking about your relationship with your teachers going all the way back to when you were 16. And so all of this all at once I'm experiencing while you're playing this piece.
Wow. I mean, that's a great description of a great listening experience. One of the things about this little show right now is when does a musician get to hear what the listener was going through? I think that's a great. I mean, you and I do that all the time, and you are a musician, so it's a little different. But on the other hand, well, I think most listeners to serious or classical music are either musicians or studied or play. But the main thing is that feedback the other way is really fun to hear and very interesting.
I've been noticing that too these last 2 months, Bruce. We've gotten a lot more listener comments than usual just to our daily radio show, just to the 2 hour daily radio show. And I've been encouraging people to call in. I love the emails. The emails are
Yeah.
great, but hearing people's voices and hearing not just what they say, but how they say it and getting meaning out of that too, man, that has meant so much to me as the host of Performance Today, to have that connection with listeners. And even right now, just seeing the comments scrolling by. Lisa Sinclair put the little clappy hands together after that performance and the emoji. Um, uh, oh, uh, all right. We're gonna have to wrap up here in just a minute, but there's so many comments coming in, and I have to say, a lot more people joining in this Facebook Live than when I was just doing it by myself, which is great because we have live music. um, let's
Well,
see, what other
I'm so
comments do we
glad you
have?
invited me to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, so glad to have you, Bruce. A question to come back to next time because this has been so much fun. We're going to have to do this again, obviously. Richard
Sure.
Williams, as the father of teenagers, I'm curious, what is the newest pop tune you've used on Piano Puzzlers? Do you have a quick answer for that?
I I don't. I wish I did have a quick answer for that. I could. I would have to do research. I'm really not sure. Um, it's. I don't
But
think
it
I've
does
done
raise a
anything
larger
within the last. Yeah,
it
I
does
haven't done
raise a
anything
larger
within the
issue
last
that
few years. Yeah.
yeah, pop songs, the sort of the American songbook as it's called from the 20s, 30s, 40s tend to be tunes that have a longer line and a longer arc to them. Contemporary pop music tends to be more about rhythm and less about melody. So it's hard to grab a melody when the melody is just on the same note over and over and over.
Well, I did experiment. I experimented with a few very recent, very popular songs, and if I removed the rhythm, uh, and just looked at the notes, they were usually, as you're saying, a bit too fragmented to put them in another context and have them be recognizable. So it
Yeah.
is a different, the influence really is on beat and kind of sonority and electronic sound and all kinds of personality things, which is a very different kind of genre from the idea of a song in the old-fashioned way. But if people are obliged, I mean, if someone has a tune in mind that they think would work, just let us know because it's always interesting.
Yeah, just send us an email or comments right here on the Facebook feed or mail@performancetoday.org. And we can easily forward that along to Bruce. So the email address is mail at liveperformancetoday.org. If you have a suggestion for something Bruce might consider a song that you think would be fun to do, or even a combination that you hear when you hear one melody, it reminds you of something else. And maybe Bruce could put those together for you. So a lot of comments coming in now saying, no, don't go. Yes, do this again. Yes, I look forward to more.
Well,
But we will
in
wrap up
terms
for
of,
now.
I just can say in terms
Yeah,
of
go
not
ahead.
going, I mean, we're home. We're home, right? We're not going anywhere. So,
Oh, yeah, where are we going? Bruce, thank you so much. This has been such fun. And, during these times when we're so isolated, oh, it's wonderful to see you.
yeah, same here, Fred. I mean, and one weird thing I can do here that I can't do with a real piano is stuff like
Ooh.
weird sounds.
All right. And here, one final question from
Yes,
somebody who's watching who just happens to be a composer, Wang Ji, who says, it doesn't have to be cross-genre tune, does it? Why does the tune have to be a pop song? And
it
Bruce, you have
doesn't.
sometimes done one classical tune in the style of another classical composer.
Yes, I have. I mean, I've taken lots of opera melodies and you put them in piano styles of various people. Um, so I've used tunes of Mozart and Bizet, and in general, I'll often take a very well-known pop. And one of the weirdest ones I think was Eine kleine Nachtmusik, taking that as a tune and putting it in the style of Robert Schumann. That was really weird. But yeah, that is fun to do.
So we're already getting a suggestion, a song by the band Chicago called Color My World, which is a pop song from, I don't know, like 40, 45 years ago. Chicago used to be one of my favorite bands because they had a horn section that they used to great effect. All right, hooray for doing this, says Genevieve. And Hector del Corto, the tango bandoneon player, says, how about doing some tango? We'll do it again. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you, Fred. See you next time.
See you next time. And by the way, thanks to our technical director, Eric
Oh yeah.
Stromstad, who is sitting on his porch in Minnesota, monitoring all the video feeds and all the audio and mixing it all together. Eric, thank you very much. I mean, even just 5 minutes before we went on, there were some questions about whether this would all work. Thanks, Eric, for making it happen. We'll do it again. Thanks, Bruce. Bye for now.
Thank you, Fred. Bye bye.